Want to make more success with your healthy habit changes? Then the secret is actually to make smaller changes. It turns out small change works much more effectively, is easier to keep, and make part of your life than big changes. Did you know that already? In fact, today I want to encourage you and I want to talk about making the minimum viable change. I really want to encourage you to go, what is the smallest amount I could do that would be considered a success? What less can I do than I've been attempting in order that I might succeed more? Hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian Granger. I'm a life coach and weight loss coach, and I help serial dieters change their mindset. Get off that weight loss roller coaster, get off the merry-go-round, stop gaining and losing, and actually change their habits the way they can keep for life. So not only does getting to goal become inevitable, staying there is also inevitable. That's what I want. Live more of your life at goal. You can check out more about me at livemorelife.com.au. Today, if you are joining me live, say hi. If you're watching on replay, make sure you're saying hi there too. I really want you to think about this concept because it's exactly opposite to what most people want to do. In my experience, over 14 years since losing my 50 kilos, I lost that in just over a year. I've maintained it ever since. And since helping tens of thousands of people over the last 14 years make healthy changes, I've realized that what most people do is they decide to get healthier. They decide to lose weight, or they decide to get fit up. They decide to make more space and time in their lives for themselves, take a little bit more self-care, particularly in this day and age when we're busy, we've got chaos, we've got responsibilities. Most people will have that moment of determination, of motivation, of going, yes, I want it, this is the time, I'm fed up, I've had enough, I'm ready. Maybe those clothes don't fit, maybe you had an unpleasant discussion with the doctor at your latest checkout, maybe the kids wanted you to get down on the floor and play with them, and you had to think twice about whether you could do that, whether you could get back up. There can be lots of reasons why we start this journey. Whatever yours is, whatever started you out on deciding to get healthier, make new healthy habits, lose weight, get fitter, I wonder if you did this. That whenever you started, you were very connected to that why, and you said, right, that's it, I'm doing it, this is the time. And then you went and committed yourself to something big. A big change. Maybe I'm going to cut out all the carbs. Or maybe I was going to give up the chocolate or the alcohol. Maybe I was going to go to the gym every day for an hour. Maybe I was going to get rid of all the junk. I hear that a lot. And maybe you did. Maybe you could do that for a day, 2, 3. Maybe you went as far as a couple of weeks. You saw some success. You're feeling good. You're doing it, feeling successful. And then, tell me if this happened to you, life happened. Things get chaotic, or busy, or someone got sick, or there was an extra responsibility you hadn't thought of. And all of a sudden you fall back to your old ways. Now, this is the pattern that I see again and again and again for people. You set your goals when you're highly motivated. And the trouble is, when you're highly motivated, of course you're dreaming big. You're going, yes, I can do it. I'm committed. I'm going to do it. We forget that that's not our normal state. Most people are not highly motivated most of the time. Motivation's a wave. It waxes and wanes. Creating long-term success means making actual long-term changes, lifestyle changes, to your habits. Finding those unhealthy ones, the unhealthy reasons why you're overeating or overdrinking, or making poor choices or avoiding the exercise, and switching them into healthier new habits that you actually can sustain, even when you're not motivated. Even when your motivation's low, when you're like, I'm over it, can't be bothered, I don't want to. Because the truth is, our brain is going to want to not want to. It's going to want to tell us that we can't do it. It's too hard, it's too dark, I don't have time, I'm too busy. All of the excuses, all the reasons. Why? Because your brain always wants to do what it's always done. So today, in this video, I want to encourage you to, instead of making the big commitment when you're highly motivated, think about, whether you're motivated or not, what is the smallest change you could make when you aren't motivated, when you don't feel like it, when you're over it, or bored, or too busy? What in that moment would be the smallest change that you could make to one of your behaviors that you would still consider a success? That you would still look back and go, well, that was better than I've been doing previously. I call this the minimum viable change, the MVC. What is the smallest change I could make to just one of my habits that I would still look back and consider to be an improvement, a success? It's a really interesting question. And, the truth is, when we're changing our habits, there might be 10, 50, 100 habits that we have to change. I often talk about, doing these weekly videos, working in my Weight Loss for Life community. Now, if you're not a member of my Facebook group, the Weight Loss for Life community, come and join us. We share hints and tips and tricks every day throughout the week. I post in there regularly, and we share ways to make it easy. So come and join us if you haven't already. If you're already in the group, you're watching it here live, hi. But really think about this idea. We only ever have to work on one idea at a time. Now, in this group, I often say, well, let's do one focus a week. Right? Let's pick one habit to make better. Now, I'm going to encourage you to do that today. If you're watching, let's pick one habit that you want to improve. Now, try and make it specific. Often you'll want to say things like, I want to move more, or I want to eat healthier. Okay, what would that look like? What is one habit I would like to change here? I had a person I know last week feeling highly motivated. They're doing it right. I'm making this commitment to I'm going to bring exercise into my life. And they were committing to a 40-minute walk every day. And that's perfectly fine if that is the minimum viable change for you, right? I remember doing this when I first started losing weight. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go for a half-hour walk every day. Now, I hadn't been off the couch for years at that point. I hadn't been doing very much exercise. That was unrealistic to start with. Now, of course, if you're already exercising, 35 minutes every day, then stretching to 40 minutes might be the minimum viable change. Like, okay, well, 32 minutes isn't a success, but 40 minutes instead of 35 would be success. Okay, that's the minimum amount that I feel comfortable doing, even when I don't really want to do it. I know that I can do 5 minutes. So if you're just starting out, and if it's exercise, for instance, you might just start with 5 minutes. You might walk out for 2.5 minutes, and back for 2.5 minutes. You might do 5 minutes worth of walking on the spot, or of simple bodyweight exercises. You might do, a minute of squats, and a minute of lunges, and a minute of bicep curls, and a minute of calf raises, and you might do sit-ups feels like it's advanced. You might want to start with something small. You might want to feel like just toe taps. Maybe you want to do some upper body work. You want to do some tricep dips. You can do them in a chair. You might do some push-ups against the wall. Maybe you just do one of those things. I'm often reminded of the work that I learned from Robert Maurer about the Kaizen principle, continuous quality improvement. And he was a psychologist, and I remember one of his patients he was working with who wanted to do more exercise, and the place they agreed to start, the minimum viable change for him was, I'm going to stand on my treadmill for 2 minutes a day without even turning it on. That was going to be considered a success. The treadmill had become, the clothes era, or a piece of ornament, or a spider for homes. home for spiders, if it's in your garage or your shed or something like that. What is the minimum viable change? What is the smallest piece? If it's eating healthier, okay, am I going to add one more serve of vegetables to my meal at night? Am I going to switch? Right, that might be the minimum viable change. It might be I'm going to switch one eating occasion where it's an unhealthy choice to a healthier choice. So instead of the chocolate bar, I'm going to have just one square chocolate. Maybe I have an individually wrapped square chocolate. Maybe I switch that one to a piece of fruit instead. Maybe you need something in between. You know, one small change. What is the minimum viable change? Anyway, think about whatever it is for you and get very, very specific about it. What is the smallest amount that would be an improvement moving you towards the goal that you want that you could do even when you really don't want to? This is a much more powerful way to set a goal, to set a focus for what you're working on. And then I want you to think about whatever you've chosen, and feel free to share it with us in the comments. Maybe ask yourself these questions first. What am I giving up or going without in order to spend my time and energy on this instead of whatever I would have been doing instead? For instance, my friend who was doing 40 minutes of exercise, I'm like, well, what are you going to have to give up? Is that 40 minutes of TV time? Is that, like, what is that? Is it 40 minutes of work that you're not doing? What is it that you're willing to give up to spend the 40 minutes? What are you willing to give up or go without in order to do this new thing? And what am I gaining from it? Now, watch out for your brain here if it says not enough. That's not going to make much difference. 2 minutes of exercise, Brian's not going to make a difference. Maybe not on its own. Maybe not in your body. Maybe not in your muscular strength. Maybe not in your cardio strength. Although every little bit counts. You might not see those benefits straight away. But here's what happens. When you make a small change, and you make it small enough to do it even when you don't feel like it, you make the minimum viable change. Minimum viable. It's realistic. I can actually do it. I'm willing to spend the time on this even if I don't really want to. Change. It's not the same as I have been doing. Minimum viable change. When you make that, you're going to start seeing a lot more success because you actually get yourself to do it. That will feel positive. That will become self-reinforcing, right? You'll see more success instead of more failure. More times when you went, no, it's too hard. I don't have 40 minutes. I'm too busy. Or we just fall back into the old habit. You'll see a lot less of that. You'll see more of the accomplishment. More accomplishment helps you feel more confident, more empowered, makes you want to do more. Success breeds success. In addition, if you just keep repeating the minimum viable change, very quickly it becomes automated. Our normal shifts a little bit. Perfect. Keep doing that until it just feels automatic. Like brushing your teeth, putting a seatbelt on when you get in the car. Picking up your knife and fork or your utensils when you're sitting down to a meal. Probably automatic. Good. Make the minimum viable change automatic. Repeat it enough times until your brain doesn't think about it anymore. It's just what you do. Right? How many of you have said this last week, I didn't have time to brush my teeth, or I didn't have time to get dressed. I was too busy. No, you still did those things. Your brain has just automated them. They're just automatic. It's just what you do. You don't even think about it. It just happens. This is the path to making all of your new habits permanent. It's why the minimum viable change is so important, because we make that little tiny change. We repeat it enough times. We celebrate it. We make it realistic. We'll actually do it instead of not doing it. Right? We're always practicing a habit. We're either practicing doing or not doing. We're practicing the new change or the old habit. The smaller and easier you make it, the more likely you are to do it. The more you do it, the more quickly it becomes your new normal. And then you can build on it. You're going to make another minimum viable change. There'll be a new minimum viable change, but you'll have kept the old one. You repeat that, it becomes a new normal. You do another one, and then another one, and another one, and another one. And all of a sudden you've transformed your life completely. Go back to my example from the 40 minutes of exercise. Yeah, sure. So if you've been doing exercise, you've been doing 35 minutes, it's only 5 minutes more. If you haven't been doing any, start with the 5 minutes if that's the minimum amount that you could do for you. When you start with the minimum, you go, oh, I don't really have time, I'm too busy. Oh, I can do 5 minutes. Right? Okay. Do the 5 minutes. And then when you're ready, maybe you want to do another 5 minutes. The minimum viable change then becomes, I'm adding, is 10 minutes worth of exercise, but I'm only adding 5 minutes. Same deal I said before, if you're already doing 35, adding 5 becomes 40 minutes. But because the 35 minutes at that point is already automated, is already automatic, is something you've already been doing just as part of your life, it won't ever feel like a big deal, right? Because you're only adding a little bit. You're only making a small change to your dietary intake. Brain doesn't notice the small changes so much. And it doesn't have to have so much resistance to them. It doesn't feel like such a big deal. It's not something we have to fight against so much. And this is very, very powerful for long-term change. So can you see that? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. Let me revise what we've talked about so far. Pick a habit you want to change. Ask yourself, what is the smallest amount of change here that is actually viable for me to do? What is the minimum viable change? The smallest amount that I can actually look back and count as a success. Is that realistic? What am I giving up or going without to do that? Right? How do I feel about that? Am I excited by that prospect? Am I willing to go without or give up in order to gain the benefit? What is the benefit I'm gaining? I'm gaining confidence. I'm gaining automaticity. I'm gaining the willingness to show up and do what I said I'm going to do. Then you want to ask 2 more questions. Right? So if you've created your minimum viable change, you're like, yes, I'm willing to spend the time on that. I'm willing to not spend the time on whatever I was doing before. And I'm going to gain the confidence, the success, the self-esteem of actually doing something instead of not doing. You want to ask then, how will I remember? Right? It's not a habit you have yet, so you need a prompt, a cue, a trigger. You need something to remind you to make that change. Right? Obviously, it's helpful there to insert that along to or link it to another behavior you already have. Very, very helpful if you do that. Or put a note. I'll give you a quick example. A bit over a month ago, I started adding a stretch in my wind down routine before bed. And I decided to insert it. The original workout was on an app on my phone. It was a FitOn workout. And it was just a 5-minute stretch. While I was learning it, I had to watch it on the phone while I was doing the stretch. So I inserted the stretch in that part of my existing routine where I go and plug in my phone and put it on the charger for overnight. Because I had my phone in my hand, right? Notice I used the time when I would have the tool I needed, or I'd have something that would act as a prompt to then go and do that. I also laid out my yoga mat so that it was here as a visual reminder to do that. I kind of had to trip over it if I was going to bed. Like, oh, okay, that's a reminder. I need to do my stretch. Plugging in my phone. Oh, yes, I need to do my workout. Now, I've been doing that every day for over a month. I think I'm up to week 5 now. And I no longer need the app. But still, I go to plug in my phone and my brain goes, you're supposed to be doing something now. Oh, that's right, I do my stretch. That happens automatically now because I've been repeating this one small change, this 5 minutes worth of stretching before bed every night without fail. So now my brain has come to expect it. In fact, I've started building on it, which is what I said before. We start small and we build. My brain's been like, ooh, here's another couple of stretches I could add to this routine to stretch out other parts of my body. And so I've actually been building on it and making it closer to 10 minutes now. But it doesn't feel like a big deal. None of that's hard. My brain doesn't have any objection to it. It's just what I want to do. Why? Because the existing piece, the doing the stretching, the initial 5 minutes, has become automated. This is the power of the minimum viable change. Finally, the last question. So, how will I remember? The last question is, how will I celebrate? It's very important that you acknowledge your success, particularly if part of your brain goes, that doesn't even really count. That's not enough. It won't have a big difference. You know, if I leave one bite on my plate at each meal, might be one small change you're going to make to lower your portion sizes. Or throw out the first bite. Maybe you want to do that. And maybe that won't have an immediate result on the scale. So it's important to celebrate, particularly if your brain's going, well, you never lose weight that way. Yeah, except that you forget that there's a compound effect. If I eat just a little bit less, if I leave that last bite on my plate every day for 30 days, for 60 days, for 90 days, my brain starts to realize I don't have to eat everything on my plate anymore. I have to eat it food just because it's there. It's okay for food to be there and for me not to be eating it. Start to realize, oh, actually I didn't really need that. I wasn't hungry. I wasn't not going without. Actually, I was just overeating before. Now I can come back to what is, I can work my way towards the right portion size for me. Okay, there's the goal we actually want to be. So how will I celebrate? Can I give myself a high five in the mirror? Can I give myself a thumbs up, smile, acknowledgement? Just a little fist pump. Yes, I did it. It's important to acknowledge and celebrate when you do make the minimum viable change, because when you do, that will help you reinforce it. Dr. BJ Fogg, the head of the Behavioral Design Lab at Stanford University, calls this a moment of shine, a moment of acknowledgement, pride for actually doing what you said you would do. It's actually very important because our brain gets a little hit of dopamine when we do that, and that becomes a signal to our brain to do it again. It's like, ooh, that was good. Let's repeat it. It's a way of reinforcing our neurons in our brain to automate it. Okay, well, that's what I have for you today. I hope that's helpful. So I want you to let me know in the comments. Pick one thing. What is the minimum viable change that you are going to work on this week? And let us know how you go. Post your success in my Weight Loss for Life community or in the comments down below. Love to hear from you. And of course, if you want to delve deeper into this work, you've got lots of habit changes you want to make, you want to explore more about that, well, reach out to me. Go to livemorelife.com.au where you can book a free consultation with me. We can talk about mapping out how to get you from where you are to where you want to be. We can talk a bit, if you want, about how I can help you do that. I'd love to support you in creating your healthy life. All right, don't forget to give me a like, give me a heart, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and let me know, what have you chosen as your minimum viable change for this week? Have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.